Hello, it's Tuesday, May 30th, 2017. You are listening to Inception Radio Network, voice of the fringe majority. This is Carol Carl with UFO-Headline News. We pause, we ponder, look up and ask the heavens, what's up? Well, specifically, planet-wise and star-wise, the moon and Regulus are up. This is according to earthsky.org, our constant, steady North Star of information. Tonight, the waxing crescent moon is approaching the star Regulus, the brightest star in the constellation Leo the Lion. Nearly everybody worldwide can use the moon to find the star Regulus tonight. Just look for the moon in the evening sky. That bright star nearby, well, that's Regulus. There's little chance of mistaking another star for Regulus because it's the only bright object within a stone's throw of the May 30th moon. The much brighter star, a long hop to the east, well, not a star at all. It's that giant planet, King Jupiter. You'll easily see Jupiter. It's the most brilliant star-like object in the May evening sky. Indeed, this broadcaster said to herself, "These binoculars just aren't cutting it. Maybe it's high time we learn to use that Meade telescope we've had at our disposal, but just been too undisciplined to pursue." We're betting that rings a bell with at least one of you, gentle listeners. But it's summer, mostly moderate temperatures, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. Perhaps it's time, if you've got something at your disposal, give it a whirl. King planet Jupiter is up there in all its brilliance at the moment. And according to the folks at earthsky.org, the moon is going to meet up with Jupiter on June 3rd. As viewed from North America, the moon on the night of May 30th will be to the west or to the right of Regulus, and on May 31st and June 1st will be in that same position. From the world's eastern hemisphere, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand, you guys are going to see the moon's position somewhat offset toward those previous dates. In fact, if you're living in Madagascar or along the southeast coast of Africa, you can watch the moon occult or cover up Regulus on the evening of May 31st. The star will slip behind the moon's dark side and then reappear on its illuminated side. If you're living in and hearing this broadcast from this following city, we apologize for the attempt at pronouncing it. It's Antananarivo, spelled Antananarivo. It's in Madagascar. That occultation will start at precisely 8:15 p.m. and end at 9:26 p.m. local time. But no matter where you live worldwide, the moon always moves eastward relative to the backdrop of stars and planets of the zodiac. That eastward motion in our sky is a translation of the moon's eastward motion in orbit around Earth. Starting tonight and over the next several days, you can notice that orbital motion of the moon as it sweeps by the star Regulus. Bottom line, tonight, May 30th, 2017, the waxing crescent moon is approaching the star Regulus, the brightest star in the constellation Leo the Lion. Our particular orbit took us past the earthsky.org Earth section, a wonderful part of that site, for this headline, Weekend Auroras at the South Pole. It's really little more than a soundbite, but here we go. On Saturday, May 27th, 2017, a coronal mass ejection, or CME, arrived at Earth from the Sun, sparking a strong G3-class geomagnetic storm that peaked on May 28th. According to the site spaceweather.com, auroras were sighted in more than 20 United States and no doubt at similar latitudes in the Northern Hemisphere. But they also occurred over the less populous South Hemisphere and over Earth's South Pole. So far, we weren't able to find any striking significance of an effect here on Earth as far as communications were concerned. We'll wait and see and keep you posted. Meanwhile, if you're so inclined, there's a striking photograph that is over at earthsky.org. We'll post a link later at ufo-headline-news.com. It's a photo of auroras taken over a relay station at the South Pole, and coincidentally, the shot captures an iridium flare. What a combo. Here's a combo. An agency of the United States government and a place in space. Well, we never thought we would be reading this headline. NASA to make announcement about first mission to touch sun. No, we can assure you this isn't fake news, and it isn't April Fool's Day. This comes from the nasa.gov/press release, and it goes like this. It's actually an announcement about an upcoming announcement. NASA will make an announcement about the agency's first mission to fly directly into our sun's atmosphere. There will be an event at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Wednesday, May 31st. It'll be broadcast from the University of Chicago's William Eckhart Research Center auditorium. As one might expect, that event is going to be broadcast live. We'll put up a link from nasa.gov/NASA TV, but if you're just not able to wait, you can sleuth around and find that on your own. The mission, Solar Probe Plus, is scheduled to launch in the summer of 2018. Placed in orbit within 4 million miles of the sun's surface and facing heat and radiation unlike any spacecraft in history, the spacecraft will explore the sun's outer atmosphere and make critical observations that will answer decades-old questions about the physics of how stars work. The resulting data will improve forecasts of major space weather events that impact life on Earth, as well as satellites and the lives of astronauts in space. In case you're interested, here are the including participants. Thomas Zurbuchen, Associate Administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate out of Washington, D.C., Mission Project Scientist out of the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory in Laurel, Maryland, Nicola Fox. Then there's Eugene Parker and S. Chandraskar, Distinguished Service Professors Emeritus at the University of Chicago. Add to that team Eric Isaacs. He's Executive Vice President for Research, Innovation, and National Laboratories at the University of Chicago, and the Dean of the Division of the Physical Sciences at the University of Chicago, Rocky Kolb. As usual, with anything from NASA, you can find links to other things about this mission and agency's solar-related activities, and you can find that link later at ufo-headline-news.com. And if you're hungry for still more NASA news, here's this headline. NASA to air launch of next International Space Station resupply mission. Yup, NASA TV once again. NASA commercial cargo provider SpaceX is targeting its 11th commercial resupply service mission to the International Space Station. The launch date is set for 5:55 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Thursday, June 1st. The coverage, of course, will be carried on NASA television and the agency's websites. That's going to start at 5:15 p.m., followed by, of course, a post-launch news analysis. The SpaceX Dragon spacecraft will lift off on the company's Falcon 9 rocket from Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's going to be carrying almost 6,000 pounds of science research, crew supplies, and hardware to the orbiting laboratory. It's going to be supporting Expedition 52 and 53 crew members. The unpressurized trunk of the spacecraft also will transport solar panels, tools for Earth observation, and equipment to study neutron stars. About 10 minutes after launch, Dragon will reach its preliminary orbit. It's then going to deploy its solar arrays and begin a carefully choreographed series of thruster firings to reach the space station. When it arrives, Expedition 52 flight engineers Jack Fisher and Peggy Whitson, she's commander currently, of NASA, will be grappling with the Dragon. If you want to see that, well, there's live coverage of that rendezvous and capture starting at 8:30 a.m. Sunday, June 4th on NASA TV, with installation coverage set to begin later at 11:30 a.m. If that launch doesn't occur June 1st, the next launch window will be 5:07 p.m. Saturday, June 3rd, and then that TV coverage won't start till 4:30 p.m. If you didn't get a chance to write that all down, don't worry, there will be links later at ufo-headline-news.com. The Dragon spacecraft is going to remain at the space station until approximately July 2nd, when it's scheduled to splash down with that research and return cargo in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Baja California. Media at Kennedy Center will have the opportunity to participate in special tours and briefings the 31st of May and June 1st and view the launch. This is going to be the 100th launch, the 6th SpaceX launch from this pad. Previous launches include 11 Apollo flights, the launch of an unmanned Skylab back in 1973, 82 shuttle flights, and 5 SpaceX launches. Speaking of launches, well, let's just launch this. The source is so credible. All of the players are credible. It goes like this. Bigelow, aerospace founder, says commercial world will lead in space. Nope, that's not the real gold nugget takeaway here. That's buried farther in the article. And the article is written in the form of a two-person interview, so if you will indulge. This is an interview that happened actually for CBS TV 60 Minutes. But first, to set the stage. There's a new space race, and it's not between the United States and Russia. It's between private companies, and it's attracted multimillionaires and billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. A less likely player is Las Vegas real estate tycoon Robert Bigelow, who at 73 is making the biggest gamble of his life, not on rockets, but on expandable spacecraft, large, lightweight structures that inflate in space, a technology that could dramatically change how humans live and work in zero gravity. NASA has partnered with Robert Bigelow, who's an unconventional figure in the aerospace world. He's more at home on the Vegas Strip than at America's space agency. And he's obsessed with aliens and UFOs. Yes, gentle listeners, it says that right here. In the spring of last year, he and NASA carried out an historic test to prove his high-flying technology is ready to support humans in space, what we playfully refer to as that inflatable space bounce house. And when Elon Musk's SpaceX rocket soared into the skies above Cape Canaveral, it was on a mission for NASA, carrying nearly 7,000 pounds of cargo to the International Space Station, food, supplies, and Robert Bigelow's expandable spacecraft. Let's start that two-person interview right about here. Robert Bigelow. Flying to the International Space Station is a really big deal. It's an experimental spacecraft, which is a big deal. We don't know how it's going to behave for sure. Lara Logan. Does that make you nervous? Robert Bigelow. I'm nervous because I'm a nervous person, I think, and I don't necessarily always expect things to go right. At this point during the CBS 60 Minutes interview, they inserted time-lapse video. You can see that bounce house expanding in seconds. Close to $300 million and 16 years to get it there. Lara Logan. Is there anything this big that astronauts are working in today? Robert Bigelow. No, nothing even remotely close. I can turn this process into anything a client wants, a first-ever orbiting hotel, a hospital, or an inflatable research facility. The B330 is smaller than the original, the Olympus. Lara Logan. This can function on its own? Bigelow. Well, it can function as a standalone destination, because it has all the facilities that it would take to keep people alive. Or for countries hoping to make their mark in space, Bigelow said this offers an affordable way in. Lara Logan then says, what about the idea of national pride and what we do as nations? Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. He didn't do that for a private company. He did that for the United States of America, and it meant something. To which Robert Bigelow replies, you bet it did, and that created a period of inspiration that hasn't been matched ever since. So now we're looking for a new era that says, all right now, how can we now shape this to where it's more accessible for a lot more folks at a lot less cost and still have safety and reliability at the same time? Apparently, while watching Neil Armstrong take his first steps on the moon, that moment in history inspired him and still does. Robert Bigelow says, the approach, however, wasn't lightning fast. But now here's where Lara Logan writes that on a canyon road just outside Las Vegas, Robert Bigelow's story takes a turn that some may find, to put it lightly, improbable. He told Lara Logan this is where his grandparents had a close encounter with a UFO. Here it is. Robert Bigelow, it really sped up and came right into their faces and filled up the entire windshield of their car. And it took off at a right angle and shot off into the distance. This anecdote apparently sparked Robert Bigelow's obsession, and it might explain that alien looking out from the side of Bigelow's aerospace sign. And it made for a kind of conversation you don't ordinarily have with an accomplished CEO. Lara Logan, do you believe in aliens? Robert Bigelow, I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it. Lara Logan, do you also believe that UFOs have come to Earth? Robert Bigelow, there has been and is an existing presence, an extraterrestrial presence, and I spent millions and millions and millions. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject. Lara Logan, is it risky for you to say in public that you believe in UFOs and aliens? Robert Bigelow, I don't give a damn. I don't care. Lara Logan, you don't worry that some people will say, did you hear that guy? He sounds like he's crazy. Robert Bigelow, I don't care. Lara Logan, why not? Robert Bigelow, it's not gonna make a difference. It's not gonna change the reality of what I know. Lara Logan, do you imagine that in our space travels we will encounter other forms of intelligent life? Robert Bigelow, you don't have to go anywhere. Lara Logan, you can find it here? Where exactly? Robert Bigelow, it's just like right under people's noses. Oh my gosh, wow. And that's a direct quote. Robert Bigelow, it's just like right under people's noses. Oh my gosh, wow. In other words, extraterrestrial life is here, according to Robert Bigelow. The content of this article goes on to say that the FAA confirmed to Lara Logan that for years it did refer reports of UFOs and other unexplained phenomenon to a company Bigelow owns. He told us he's had his own close encounters, but declined to go into detail. Lara Logan continues, Robert Bigelow's quirky and he knows it, but when you have as much money as he does, no one, not even NASA, seems to care. There's lots more to this article about that interview. You can find the entire content later via link at ufo-headline-news.com. The country of Belgium, known for chocolate, lace, and UFOs. Here's a sighting via ufostalker.com from Bruges, and they spell that Bruges. It's actually Bruges, Flanders, Belgium. It's the setting for MUFON sighting number 83616. This event took place on the 6th of May this year, wasn't reported till May 10th. The summary, I took a picture of the cruise from inside a coach. The object wasn't seen till I looked at picture later. And you can look at that picture later by heading over to ufo-headline-news.com. There's no accompanying report of weather with this item, but here is the sighting itself. I was on a cruise from Southampton in the United Kingdom to Zeebrugge in Belgium on Saturday, the 6th of May, 2017, at 13:45. I took a picture of the cruise ship from inside the coach through the window. At the time I took this picture, I did not notice anything in the sky. When we got back on the ship, I was going through the pictures, and I saw this object. The picture was taken on a Samsung S7 Edge on the maximum resolution. Since we're roughly in that neck of the woods, why don't we stop by Tyne Estuary in the United Kingdom? They spell that Teign, and that's where MUFON case number 83956 happened on the 22nd of May, 2017. It was reported 2 days later. The summary: rectangular UFO with strange contrails captured again. Well, by captured, undoubtedly they mean a photographic capture. Yes, there is a copy of that photo, and you can find it later at ufo-headline-news.com. Sighting specifics list the viewing distance as unknown or not applicable. The altitude was unknown. Sighting duration 3 minutes. Object features appendages. The object flight path with directional change, and it had a square or rectangular shape. No weather to speak of, and so we won't. Here's the first-person account. I was at the Tyne estuary taking photographs of passing planes when I spotted what at first I thought was a passenger plane. I started to zoom in with my Nikon P900, only to be shocked by what I saw. It was no passenger plane. It appeared to be 2 white rectangular sections that were somehow connected, and from the middle section there were 2 protruding transparent square flaps. There was 1 flap on the top and 1 flap on the bottom of these conjoined rectangles. There were also 2 separate contrails that were left by this strange object. This is totally bizarre. What kind of aircraft would have this kind of configuration? I would say I have never seen anything like it before, but that would be a lie. I photographed the same bizarre object over the same Tyne estuary site on the 10th of April 2017 at 2:46 p.m. This object is very unconventional. What on earth could it be? The photograph was taken on the 24th of May 2017 at 5:15 p.m. at Tyne Estuary, Devon, England. And here's where we say, gentle listeners, if you never before have made your way over to ufo-headline-news.com, it's pretty painless. If you can link to that photo, we just have to say that our assumption is this has to be something we're working on. It is so blatantly there, such a presence in the sky. Let's make our presence known back on the continental United States now in Colonial Heights, Virginia. It's move-on case number 84050. This is an old sighting. The date is 1961. The month of October, the 1st of the month. It wasn't reported till the 29th of May 2017 for some reason. Here's the summary. 1 bright light that became 11 dimmer lights that came out of that bright light. The bright light got dimmer when the others left. The viewing distance here, over 1 mile, unknown. The altitude, over 500 feet, no cloud cover. The sighting duration was 30 minutes, which perhaps could account for the vivid quality in our witness's memory. The object features, however, are reported as none. The flight path, hovering and then path, and this object had a star-like shape. Some dedicated soul went back and collected the weather information for that date in 1961. The maximum temperature was 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 degrees Celsius. Minimum temperature 46 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius. The maximum visibility was 15 miles, 24 kilometers, and it was sort of downhill from there because it was raining and foggy. Here's the account. This is an account of what I believe was a sighting of a UFO in the early 1960s. I was probably about 15 or 16 years old at the time. I don't remember wearing a heavy winter coat, so I believe this happened during the fair weather months, probably in the autumn. I lived on Richmond Avenue in Colonial Heights, Virginia, about a half block east of the boulevard. When I saw the object in the sky, I called 2 neighbor kids out to watch with me. The sighting was in early evening, probably around 7 or 8 o'clock. In any event, it wasn't long after dark. The entire time period of this sighting was about 20 or 30 minutes. This object appeared to be a very bright star, approximately east-northeast of the intersection of Richmond Avenue and the boulevard. At that time, I believed the bright light to be just over the Fort Lee airstrip. However, there was no way of knowing just how far or how near the object was. And there was no sound coming from this object. Here's an account of what we saw. There was a very bright light looking like a star in the sky as time passed. The small light slowly left the bright light and appeared to come forward and to the right of that main light. After a minute or two, another small light slowly left the object and came forward and to the left side of the main object. This process continued until there were about 11 objects in the sky. When each light left the main light would lose some of its brightness. At the point where all the small lights were in the sky, that main light was no brighter than the smaller individual objects. After a minute or two, those small lights slowly went back and joined the main object. It was almost as if they went back exactly in the reverse of how they came away originally. Eventually, all the small lights rejoined the main light, and as each one rejoined that main light, it became brighter until it was very bright once again. Then the object moved away in an easterly direction until it became so dim it disappeared from sight. Now, the only way I can imagine anyone duplicating what we saw would be if they lined up 11 helicopters in a line east to west, then turned on their searchlights, then kept the front of each helicopter facing west, and left the line one at a time moving away from that line, then hovering for a minute, and then all of those helicopters moving into similar positions and back without turning around. Oh, and then they backed away until they went out of sight. Likely? I think not. Was this a UFO? I don't know, but I cannot explain what we saw in any logical way. As far as I'm concerned, it was a UFO, and because of this, I find it easy to believe others when they say they have seen a UFO. An oldie, but a goodie, a remarkable experience to have had. No wonder our witness remembered it vividly. Here's something vivid. The clock is crunching down upon us yet again. We'll make like a UFO and vanish because that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Inception Radio Network. Follow today's broadcast at ufo-headline-news.com. Take care of each other. We're all in this together. This is Carol Carl. See you tomorrow.